just wanted to share this information that has only just come to my attention because I've been very, very busy throughout February and right up until the last couple of weeks, really, doing some very serious work on behalf of children's rights that's took all my attention, to write a report about that. And a friend just last night sent me this link about Big Pharma. Apparently it's had its licence suspended as vaccine sterilises 500,000 girls. And, you know, scrolling through the story, it becomes very clear. I'm not going to read you the whole thing, but Kenya's opposition leader, Raila Odinga, has explained, you know, after tests were done on these vaccines, and the test proved that, yes, they do contain a hormone that is dangerous to young women and can cause potential sterilisation and even miscarriages. Now, the Catholic Church in Kenya, and good on them, have spoken out, and they did tests on these vaccines, and they found that yes, they did. The Catholic Church's suspicions proved to be correct, because the Catholic Church's position was informed by what had happened in Mexico, Nicaragua and the Philippines. So they've been using this vaccine in these three countries as well, and women and young girls have been made sterile as a result. It's a tetanus vaccination that's impregnated with beta-human chorionic gonadotropin that causes permanent infertility among girls and women, Odinga explains. They confirmed through analysis of samples that the vaccines used were tainted with the hormone. Okay, so Raila Odinga, he is the people's president, and in spite of the president that they've got, is it Uhuru Kenyatta, who's obviously a Western puppet, a World Bank puppet, which is what Africa gets most of the time, okay? And the minute a real person steps forward who actually has got some care for his people, oh, suddenly there's threats of civil war, isn't there? There's threats of civil war. And that is what happens, isn't it? As soon as a human being starts to get anywhere, a whiff of power in Africa, suddenly, oh, there's violent clashes. As analyst at the International Crisis Group, who the bloody hell are they? They've warned that swearing-in ceremony may prompt a tough response from Kenyatta. There could be violent clashes between protesters and police. They could result in significant bloodshed, they said. Why? Why? Why is it going to result in significant bloodshed? Because a new world order puppet isn't going to be getting into power. And so disgusted are the people with their world puppet leader that they've held their own election and voted him in as president and had their own swearing-in ceremony. Okay? And as it explains here in later stories, you know, I think he faced, I think he was actually deported, or one of his staff deported, Kenyan opposition figure. You know, he's had an assassination attempt on him, okay? Because when it comes down to it, you know, I mean, they said here that those crowds were slow to gather. I mean, just look at the amount of people there. You know, they're really trying to play it down, aren't they? That is what they're doing. They're trying to play it right down. That, you know, they've said here that it's an ex-British colony. the former British colony. They've got to mention that, haven't they? The independent, the former British colony has a history of disputed elections and political violence. Really? Really? What, since it became a British colony, you mean? Since it became a British colony, it has a history of disputed elections and political violence. Since it became an AFTA. Because let's face it, it's still a new world, it is now a new world order colony, isn't it? It is a patchwork of dozens of ethnic groups in which political competition for resources often exasperates existing ill feeling between communities. What, you mean that the land has been robbed that much and the people are left with so little that they have to resort to fighting amongst themselves for the scraps of resources you've left them? I am absolutely outraged by this, you know. There you go, Kenya's opposition, really. He had to swear himself in as president. Okay. This is an attack against humanity. This is an attack against humanity. This is a huge crime. Now, the thing that absolutely infuriates me the most is that they keep pushing this idea that there's too many people in Africa. Population, birth rates are just exploding. You know, they take away women and girls' rights. They take away women and children's rights. They've got no rights. They own nothing. They own the least in Africa, the women and children. Have the least power. They have the least rights. They have the least property, the least wealth. They are the most oppressed. And you wonder why the population suddenly explodes because little girls are having babies. Women are forced to have babies. They have no other choice. They've got nothing else in life expecting to happen to them except that if they are fertile, then they're likely to be having a baby every year. Because they haven't got a choice. Is the contraception freely available to African people? Is the education? No, the young girls who end up pregnant get expelled from school. That's the fact. That is what goes on in Africa. Oh, you're 13, 14 years old. You've been raped, seduced. You're pregnant. Sorry, no school for you. Abject poverty for you and your baby. Bye-bye. Scorn her, girls. Scorn her. Look down on her. She's stupid. She's a stupid person. She got pregnant. That is the attitude that is being spread in Africa. There is an evil attitude being spread in Africa. It comes from an evil, sick consciousness, okay, that today we know is the New World Order. Historically, it was a consciousness that decided it had a right to steal African people from their homelands and force them to be slaves in America. So, what should Africa's response be now? Now that not only is this evil consciousness that's been governing our planet for over 1,000 years now, just nearly 2,000 years, that has robbed women of their rights unlawfully, illegally, criminally. And then its only answer to the imbalance that it has created is then to further rob women of their rights, even of a choice to have a baby. So, 500,000 girls, but apparently according to this has been going on throughout Africa. This is 500,000 girls in Kenya. How many throughout Africa? Who has a right? Are African people animals in a lab? Who has a right to decide these things? Who? Who is going to compensate these women now? Well, I'll tell you what the compensation has to be, Africa. You turn around and you tell the World Bank and its debt to bog off, okay? Go way, World Bank. You ain't not getting a penny, not a penny of that debt. How dare you even ask for a penny after what you have done? This is outrageous. It is abominable. It's Agenda 21. It's a Nazi regime. And you have done this, professional people of the Western world. You are responsible. Because you are the ones living big and high on this planet, while billions are living in abject poverty and the misery that has created, the very imbalance that has created the kind of wealth and so-called education system that allows you to rise up in the air and sail above everybody and go off on your holidays and fly here and there and live in your lovely homes and houses, your commercial style lives, while you all take your illegal drugs at the weekend. And you say nothing. Nothing. Now, you know, I did a search to see if I could find anything about this in the mainstream media. I did a Google search. Not a thing. Okay? Nothing in the Independent, nothing in the Guardian, nothing in any of the mainstream medias. It's all alternative media covering this. Because why? Because all these professional people that apparently run these medias, the professional people that run the show, well, they're not interested. According to them, there's too many black people. There's too many African people, aren't there? It's the kindest thing to do. It's the kindest thing to do, isn't it? You know. So they don't have to get pregnant. So what's she going to do then? What alternative is there? What life is there for these women then in Africa? And there's too many African men who are prepared to sell their very souls to just for the sake to own a gun and a pair of boots and an iPhone. Who are prepared to turn guns on their own people. Their own peoples who have chosen a true leader. They're prepared to use guns on those people on behalf of New World Order puppets. You African men, you need to know what you are doing if you agree to stand by the New World Order puppets of Africa. Okay? If you're going to stand by them and pick up arms against your brother, understand that you have chosen to serve the devil. Okay? Because it is time now for African men to understand that their women, your women, were robbed of their rights. They were robbed of their land rights. Women had rights and power in African society that they were robbed of by the colonists. And they still have been robbed of it to this very day. And you African men, instead of standing up for their rights, a lot of you are taking advantage of the fact that women have no rights and no power. You are abusing them. And there's a lot of African men who do stand up for women's rights, like Raila Odinga. And that is what Africa needs, more real men who need a woman, a strong woman with a strong mind at their side, and real men that feel strengthened with a strong woman. Not the weak, wishy-washy men that need a sex slave. The kind of men who will, yes, give me a gun and an iPhone and a bit of money, you know, a gold ring on my finger, a gold chain round my neck. Yeah, who do you want me to kill? Psychopaths. Because your value system has been screwed up. It isn't African people's fault to be victimised, to be the victims of this evil consciousness, this foreign invader that has took control over their land. But this is what it amounts to. And this, as I say, there's no amount of compensation on this earth that could repay what has been done to these African females. There is no compensation. What compensation can you give to this little girl who is very probably never going to have a child? That choice is, she's been robbed of that choice. Who has a right to do that? Is she, and what is she? A creature in a lab? Africa, do not repay that debt. Do not repay it. Every African person, rise up. Tell the World Bank to go and take a running jump. You're not paying the debt. It's compensation. You're going to use that money that you've been paying to the World Bank every year for their evil, sick loans. After they've robbed you of everything, Africa, your gold, everything. These Western peoples have been growing rich on it and developing their education systems and creating their so-called fucking professionals that then go around creating organisations like WHO and UNICEF and meeting together at the Bilderbergs in order to discuss these things. So, you know, we get Bill Gates, don't we? Telling the world about, well, you know, if we increase the amount of vaccinations, we'll be able to bring the world population down. And there you go, straight from the horse's mouth. This isn't this isn't a conspiracy theory. This is a conspiracy fact, and Africa needs to wake up to it. The world needs to wake up to it. Britain, you need to wake up to it, because our country, the leaders of our country who've been oppressing us for over 1,000 years now, the foreign invaders with their evil, sick, twisted version of Christianity, okay, they're right behind this. They're right behind this. 2014 and 2015, that is when Cameron donated how many billion towards this vaccination programme, while he was sending disabled and sick people on benefits to an early grave. He gave a few billion to this. Well, he wants landing in jail. Okay, these people, that existing prime president of Kenya who's allowed this, Kenyatta, you need to face charges of corruption, of crimes against humanity, of conspiracy to commit crimes against humanity. That is what you are facing, Kenyatta, if you do not just graciously step down now and let Raila Odinga take office. And you tell the World Bank to get lost. And what do you do with the money, Africa? I tell you now, you grow hemp, okay? You get eco-technology. It can make hemp. It can provide you clothing, the most beautiful materials, okay? It can provide hempcrete to make bricks for houses. It's animal feed. The roots fertilise the soil, okay? The seeds are highly, highly nutritious and are actually vital to a child's healthy brain development. Understand that, okay? The seeds that Africa has been banned from growing hemp, that Africa lived on for thousands and thousands of years, they've removed vital omega oils from your diet, Africa. Denied it to your children. You don't, Africa, you got the sunshine, okay? Use the solar technology. Build a paradise on your land. Kick these corporate entities out, these corporate thieves. Kick them out. Repossess your lands, your homelands, because this whole world now, this whole world owes you. And there is nothing, no amount of money, this child's rights of fertility is priceless. It's sacred. It's priceless. World Bank, you're finished, okay? You are finished in Africa. Get out of Africa. You are finished. You are murderers. You've committed, you conspired, you funded this. You Bilderbergs and all you people meeting together with the likes of Bill Gates deciding, oh yes, you know, we'll develop these vaccinations and just go in there and inject them, and nobody's going to say anything because, you know, they know that there's too many people. What right have you? What right has this new world order, this global criminal cabal, what right have you to say there's too many people when Jah said to humanity, go forth and multiply? What right have you to say that? And how dare you violate these women when we know damn well that if you give women rights and power and education, okay, birth rates plummet. Throughout the West, it's happened. Wherever, the moment women had rights, birth rates dropped. To such a degree, we have the BBC grumbling about the fact that, you know, Britain's going to have an ageing population. Oh, suddenly we get how many million Eastern European migrants in to make up the surplus. These population explosions are a direct result of removing and denying women's rights and women's power. Okay? And then they think that they can address that by violating the women even further. How dare you, New World Order, you are finished now. You are finished. And I tell you now, Britain, you call yourself, all you professional people of Britain, you need to speak out, because if you don't, you're not even a human being, okay? You might think you're living up big in this world, but in Jah world, in reality, you might as well be a maggot. And in fact, I've got more respect for a maggot, because at least it's doing a job. What are you lot doing? Apart from feeding your ego trips, sustaining a load of crap, giving voice and power to idiots and psychopaths, judging people, looking at Africa and saying, oh, there's too many people. Really? No, there's not too many people in Africa. There's too many corporations and corporate interests. So, Africa, you have your chance, Africa. You turn around, you tell that World Bank, no way you are getting a penny of the debt. Every African leader worth your salt, every African professional worth your salt, you will stand up now for your women and children's rights and to protect your young men from becoming the monsters that the New World Order funds. Look what it's done with Islam, with ISIS, creating ISIS. So, you know, and they've already done it in Mexico, Nicaragua and the Philippines. You know, and it's well known what I think about Western Christianity in the form of the church. But as I've always said, I might have spoken out against the institution, but not the living people of today who are within it quite innocently. They didn't understand what I understand now. And those good people who do stand by Jesus within it, look, in Kenya they've stood up for the women's rights and spoken out, and that it's the Catholic Church that got this vaccination tested, and good on you, Kenyan people of the Catholic Church. And that's one thing I know about African people, is that they are very, very spiritual, and even a twisted version of Christianity, they will get right down to the core of the truth of it, as African people do, because they are very spiritual people. And you know, I can inform you people of Africa, you're not wrong. Jah light is shining. I have witnessed an event of golden universal light being in 1992, and I was informed of the universal law of abundance and compassion through an energy of bliss. Okay, that happened to me. Nobody in Britain wants to know about it. Not David Icke, not the newspapers, nobody, not the church, nobody wants to know about it. But that is why I have the courage as just an ordinary, simple British citizen to speak out, okay? Because Jah Light is with me, and I can tell you, African people, every single one of you who stand up for your women and children's rights, Jah Light is with you. And your soul is safe. And the ones, do not be tempted by the baubles and the money and the gadgets that they offer you in order to get you to pick up a gun and kill your brother or your sister. Do not be tempted, because it's crap. Understand it is crap. Their mobile phones are causing brain cancer. Okay? What you did, what you African people have been encouraged to look up to from the West, understand it is absolute total insanity created by mad people who have no idea what they're doing. They're living on a fantasy. They're following an Agenda 21 that wants massive depopulation and wants to reduce the world population to under 500 million. Okay? They are crazy. They do not listen to Jesus, who explained to them, to those who have more, more shall be given, and to those who have less, even that which they have shall be taken away. That is what happens. That's why the universe operates on a system of abundance. That's why Africa operated on a system of abundance, Ubuntu system. With the oral constitution of Africa that was what lost and wiped away. So it really, really, really is time now for Africans to start asking questions, and to ask yourself, Africans, you know, these people who are saying that there's too many people in Africa right now. Okay, how many people were in Africa before colonisation? And what happened when the colonisers came in and killed how many millions? And took how many millions as slaves? How many millions lived on the Pacific Islands? 8 million were genocided. The original inhabitants of the Caribbean islands, all of them murdered. 8 million, so that they could transport Africans as slaves into those same places. So, you know, we need to wake up, we need to wake up. And this gonadotropin, that is serious, because, you know, gonad refers to the reproductive testes, either in women or men, okay? And tropin, well, we know what tropin, atrophy. You know, that's the kind of thing they call their vaccinations. So Africans now, yeah, you have got your right. Stand up for your right now and tell the World Bank, sorry, we need all this money now to pay to compensate the women of Africa. We have realised that we need to give them their land rights back, that we need to give them their education rights, that we need to help them to look after their children, because they've been widows for so long now and had to struggle and suffer on their own, suffering abuse from every single side and even having it injected into them. It is time now, Africa, you show your woman some love that she has lost for how long? And if you youth are going to pick up guns, then you make sure it's to protect the women and children from these monsters. I despair of this sick, disgusting system. And as for the British media, that you have failed to speak out. Every single one of you, you are, what are you? You don't even exist.